Part 39. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 381. Seeing this thing, Shen Menjiao looked stunned. How could she not guess what this thing was? Take it. The old man handed this thing to Shen Menjiao, with a hint of tenderness in his eyes. It's just a trace of life force. I can still bear it. I promise senior brother not to go this time. Seeing this thing and hearing what the old man said, Shen Menjiao hesitated a little and kept struggling. The old man just looked at him without saying anything, as if he was waiting for the answer he wanted to hear. The scene fell into silence, and time seemed to have stopped at this moment. After a long while, Shen Menjiao finally took the magic bead, looked at the old man and said two words, "Okay." Seeing this, the old man breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. "Go back, Yuuru is still waiting for you." Ah! Shen Menjiao was stunned, not understanding the meaning of the sentence. What does it mean to wait for me? The old man glanced at him and said with a smile. You don't know yet that Yuuru likes you, right? Shen Menjiao came back to her senses, shook her head with surprise in her eyes. I really don't know, I just think of her as my senior sister. The old man smiled, turned his back to him, and whispered. Yuuru has liked you for a long time. Senior brother, I have noticed it a long time ago. Speaking of which, you two are also very suitable. Besides, you are so old. It is indeed time to find a partner to carry on the family line and continue the continuation of our Earth Demon clan. Hearing this, Shen Menjiao looked hesitant and said hesitantly. Senior brother, but I don't have that kind of love for senior sister Yuuru, I only have simple feelings. What should I do? Hearing this, the old man smiled, turned around and looked at him. Love is not a problem, it just depends on what you do. Of course, if you don't like her, you can also tell her directly and let her cut off that layer of feelings. This is how good she is to you. Shen Menjiao fell into silence, without answering, and her eyes were a little complicated. At this moment, Yuuru's figure suddenly appeared in the hall, and Shen Menjiao didn't know it yet. He didn't react until he smelled a fresh fragrance. He just caught sight of Yuuru in front of him and said in surprise. Sister Yuuru, why are you here? A gentle smile appeared on Yuuru's originally seductive face, she blinked her eyes and said softly. Because, I'm waiting for your answer. Shen Menjiao looked stunned for a while. Just when he was about to say something, Yuuru suddenly hugged him. He leaned all over Shen Menjiao's chest, feeling the softness on it. His heart suddenly started beating loudly, and he felt a little overwhelmed for a moment. Swallowing his saliva, he looked at Yuuru, who looked extremely happy in his arms, but hesitated to speak, not knowing what to say. But Yuuru said at this time. Menjiao, do you know? In the past 7 years, my heart has been struggling. I don't know how to express it to you. You should have noticed it when I talked to you. Sometimes I am a little nervous when I speak, and I don't even dare to speak. It's up to you. I remember that you asked me if I was sick. I almost laughed when you said this. I am a strong man in the immortal sovereign realm, how could I suffer from mortal diseases? But I'm very happy, because this is the first time you joke with me, When Yuuru continued to speak, Shen Mengchen suddenly interrupted her at this moment. He held her hand tightly and said. Senior sister, stop talking. If you keep talking, my heart won't be able to bear it. Why? Yuuru raised her slender white folded neck and looked at him, with a trace of doubt on her beautiful face. Shen Menjiao smiled at her. Because just now my heart trembled violently, and I felt that kind of erratic and indescribable feeling. If I keep talking, I'm afraid I won't be able to bear it anymore. Hearing this, Yuuru's cheeks suddenly turned red, her face was a little shy, and she showed the attitude of a little woman. Ahem, cough. The old man couldn't stand it anymore and coughed heavily. Only then did the two of them realize that their senior brother was still there. "I'm sorry, senior brother, for making you laugh." Shen Menju scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed. "Fine." The old man smiled and waved his hand. "This is normal. I think your senior brother and I also experienced this kind of scene back then, but now that I am old, my charm has been greatly reduced, and I am no longer as good as before." Immediately, another black jade token was thrown out of his hand. Seeing this scene, Shen Menju was a little confused. The old man explained. "If you want to train yourself, I suggest you go to the secret realm of 10,000 demons. There is no need to go to a place like the immortal domain. There are countless monsters imprisoned in the secret realm of 10,000 demons, even those at the immortal emperor level. Exercise here, I believe your strength will improve quickly, and you may even meet some talented students. The jade token I just gave you is the key to entering the secret realm of 10,000 demons." Hearing this, Shen Menjiu glanced at Yoru, who was standing aside, nodded, clasped her fists at the old man and said, "Thank you very much, senior brother." The old man waved his hand indifferently. "It's just a small matter. If you encounter anything in the future, just come to your senior brother." Shen Menju nodded, took Yoru's snow-white slender hand and left here. Watching the two people leaving, the old man had his hands behind his back. No one can say for sure when it comes to feelings. No one can escape emotional problems, be it human beings or demons. There is no reason for love, and there is no reason for loving anyone. I hope you can understand, Menju. Don't wait until you lose something to regret it. After all, the land of Dragon Ancestor, within the Azure Dragon clan. In a large dragon cave, Long Ao was wearing a blue-black robe, lying leisurely on the dragon bed, with a smile on his knife-like face. In the past 7 years, he couldn't have enjoyed more in Dragon Cave. There is a good-looking dragon girl to serve him every moment, which makes Long Ao feel very dreamy, and he even feels like he is living in a dream. Unfortunately not, this is the real reality. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside Dragon Cave. It was Wusu. Although he is not as proud as Long Ao these years, at least he still enjoys life very much. For example, his strength at this time has reached Immortal Venerable. Because there are precious cultivation resources everywhere in the land of Dragon Ancestor. Dragon spirits, dragon scales, and precious dragon teeth are everywhere here. You must know that these are precious artifact refining materials. The kind that are extremely scarce. If you want to buy it, it is impossible to get it without tens of millions of immortal crystals. In addition to these, there is also the extremely precious dragon blood that is everywhere here. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 382. Wusu soaked in the dragon's blood every day, enjoying the pleasure brought by the fierce power of the dragon's blood. At this time, his physical body had been improved to the extreme. If Wusu hadn't been lazy, maybe he would have reached Saint Realm by now. At this time, he could be said to have reached the pinnacle of his life. If you want to live here forever, as long as your understanding and talent are strong, you will be able to become an immortal emperor. Wusu lay down on Long Ao's side without hesitation, stretched heavily, yawned, and said in a mediocre tone. Long Ao, when do you want us to return to Profound Heaven Sect? Hearing this, Long Ao opened his eyes a little. I don't know, but what I want is to go back when my strength reaches the peak of Saint Realm. Wusu nodded, fully agreeing with this reason. I think so too. I'm just afraid that the sect leader won't be able to wait any longer and will give us a good beating when we go back. Besides, my wife is still over there. Speaking of this, Wusu showed a trace of longing in his eyes. It would be nice if my wife was here, so I wouldn't have to watch you flirting with other little sisters every day. When Long Ao heard this, he was stunned and immediately retorted. When did I flirt with them? It's obvious that they are fighting for it, okay. I still find them annoying. When I look at you I feel jealous. Wusu smiled with contempt in his eyes and said nothing. While the two were chatting and laughing, a majestic-looking middle-aged man wearing a black robe appeared here. Seeing this scene, Long Ao yawned. In 7 years, he had become familiar with almost everyone in Dragon Race. Uncle Bing, why are you here? Hearing this, Uncle Bing shook his head helplessly. He was here for business, otherwise why would he be here? He coughed heavily and said, follow me to the altar. Zilong has something to tell you. Hearing that Zilong wanted to tell him something, Long Ao immediately sat up and no longer looked as mediocre as before, and asked. Uncle Bing, what's going on? You just have to come with me. By the way, Wusu will also come with me. Wusu, who was lying on the dragon bed, raised his eyebrows and sat up with a puzzled expression. Except for the first time when he came here, he had never seen Zilong in the past 7 years. So what does he want to see me for? With a look of confusion, Wusu could only follow him. On top of the altar, which is about 10,000 feet wide, the 6-path dragon race expert stood here with a serious expression. Among them are Dragon Bone and Dragon Seeing. Right in front of them stood an old man in black robes with an aura as strong as entering the abyss. This person is none other than Ancestor Dragon, the leader of the dragon race. Zilong held his cane with his eyes calm. The same goes for other dragon race strongmen, who seem to be waiting for someone to arrive. A few breaths later, a whistling sound was heard in the sky, and Uncle Bing came here with Long Ao and Wusu. Everyone's expressions finally showed a trace of emotion. Zilong coughed slightly, and the aura on his body instantly calmed down, turning into an ordinary old man. Zilong raised his eyes and looked at the two of them, showing a charitable smile. Said softly, Long Ao, little brother Wusu, I called you here this time because I have something important to tell you too. After hearing this, the two looked at each other one after another, nodded, and said, Senior Long Ancestor, please speak. You should also know that my dragon race has been hiding in the 10 realms. The two nodded and replied. Zilong naturally saw through his thoughts, and his crutch shook. Seeing this scene, Wusu breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. Because in destiny, you are the only variable, the only shining star among all the dim stars. The fate of cause and effect is irreversible, but unfortunately Long Ao is the variable in this. Although fate is chaotic, there is always someone to reverse it. Okay, I believe you. If this word gets out, no one will believe it. Ha ha, ha ha ha. You've been in Dragon Race for so long, and I don't have anything to give you. You can take this. When Wusu heard this, his pupils trembled, and his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. A strong ancestor wanted to use the power behind him to help. Zilong glanced at him without saying anything. Dragon Race needs you for life and death. I asked Wusu to come here to use the power behind him. I called you here to save Dragon Race. I believe you can't make the decision, so I want to meet the master of the power behind you. Long Ao, who was on the side, scratched his head when he saw the conversation between the two. He was confused and asked weakly. Wusu suppressed the restlessness in his heart, raised his eyes to look at Zilong, raised his hands and asked. So there are 2 reasons for calling you here this time. The first is to save Dragon Race, and the second is that I want to use the power behind Wusu to help. Zilong chuckled and whispered. He coughed heavily, patted his shoulder, and said seriously. Long Seeing, who was standing aside, stood up. As the leader of the dragon race, I can naturally lead by example. Unfortunately, I can't handle this matter personally, and I can't interfere with it, because once I show up in the 10 regions, I will definitely be noticed by the top forces, even the top 10 region masters. Everyone will wake up from their slumber. Xiaolong, don't worry. I will save Dragon Race and will not let Dragon Race disappear into the dust of history. On the contrary, I want Dragon Race to become a race that is untouchable by everyone in the world, even among the 10 realms. Even the Lord can't stop me. Zhou Shen's power of law instantly turned into pure immortal energy. In an instant, all the immortal energy turned into a white bead. The white bead appeared in front of Wusu. Long Xiu said. Then I wonder how Senior Long Ancestor can help the forces behind me. Having said this, Wusu raised his head and glanced at Xiaolong, looking a little hesitant to speak. What's more, your master will soon be my partner in Dragon Race, but you don't have to worry about this. Although we can't interfere with this cause and effect, you can. Xiaolong laughed. This was the first time he had such a hearty laugh, and he hadn't had it for many years. You bring this thing to him. It contains the pure power of law. Once the strength is absorbed, it can rise to several levels. Is this thing suitable? What do I want to do then, Xiaolong? When I looked at the stars a few days ago, I suddenly saw the near future, and I also saw the crisis of my dragon race in it. Xiaolong chuckled lightly and said faintly. Hearing this, Wusu looked startled and said hesitantly. Long Ao made up his mind, looked at Xiaolong and nodded heavily. Hearing this, Long Ao's pupils shrank, and he was extremely horrified, looking at the eyes of all the dragon race experts looking at him. Of course it's okay, but it might even speed up the crisis. Of course I've heard of it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 383. As the words fell, a jade bead with a destructive aura appeared in front of everyone. Looking at this bead, the expressions of the 6 dragon race experts instantly lost their composure, because this thing is exactly the domain power that everyone is trying their best to possess. It is rumored that their dragon race has 4 geniuses who control the power of the field, and those 4 people were also the top leaders of dragon race at that time. It's just that the last 2, in order to save the dragon race descendants, unfortunately died while fighting other races. But they still used all their strength to turn the power of the fields they controlled into jade beads and pass them down. Seeing everyone's shocked expressions, Xiaolong still kept a smile on his face, while Long Ao just stared blankly. After a while, he came back to his senses and accepted the jade bead. The jade bead seemed to have spirituality, and began to flow around Long Ao's body, and then penetrated into Long Ao's eyebrows. In an instant, there was a roar in the sky, a large amount of law power continued to collapse, and one after another thunder resounded throughout the world. Dark clouds also began to spread all around, and condensed into whirlpools one after another, as if they wanted to prevent this from happening. But when Xiaolong saw this scene, he snorted coldly and shook his crutch hard. With a bang, the sky instantly returned to calm, as if the world-ending disaster had never happened. But at this moment, Long Ao's whole body was exuding violent thunder, and the crackling sound resounded in everyone's ears. Countless electric lights gathered in Long Ao's eyes. In this violent power full of anger, Long Ao seemed to be unable to bear it and knelt on one knee. However, he clenched his back teeth and held on. This situation lasted for half a quarter of an hour before gradually dissipating. And Long Ao also gained the power of the domain at this time, Thunder Punishment. As the name suggests, it controls the power of heaven and earth, gathering the power of thunder and lightning to strike violently at the enemy. And once someone comes close to him, the thunder punishment will fall on his own within 1,000 miles radius, without giving the enemy any opportunity to take advantage of it. Thunder Punishment Field. Long Ao murmured, and a hint of golden light appeared in his eyes. Then he looked at Zilong with a solemn expression, leaned over and cupped his hands and said, Xiao thanks Zilong for giving me the power of the domain. I will not let Zilong and you all down. Seeing this, Zilong smiled and waved his hand. Wusu, who was standing aside, kept looking at Long Ao with a shocked face, and he still didn't come back to his senses. There was no way, the power of thunder and lightning just now was so handsome, it really blinded Wusu's eyes. Immediately, no one said anything more. Wusu and Long Ao are also preparing to return to Profound Heaven Sect. However, Zilong sent 2 dragon race experts at the peak of the ancient saint realm to follow the 2 back at the last moment. It can be regarded as protection given to Zilong. Watching the figures leaving, a fierce-looking dragon race strongman with a breath of flames all over his body walked up to Zilong. Zilong, do you think Long Ao is really the variable in fate? Zilong glanced at him lightly and said, yes. Hearing this, the dragon race expert looked a little confused. But I feel that judging from Long Ao's current situation, it seems difficult for him to take on a big role. What's more, you will also give him the power of the domain. I feel. Meanwhile, within Profound Heaven Sect. Immediately, several people arrived at Tianxian Hall, and what caught their eyes was Qin Xian sitting on the throne. The devil knows, but judging from the current strength of our sect, there shouldn't be any fool who would come to fight. I think he should be the sect leader's friend. Also defeated the original immortal emperor. Needless to say, humans and dragons are the same. They all need an opportunity to change their mentality. Although Long Ao is carefree now, he will not be so in the future. After all, everyone has that age when they are arrogant. As for the other 2 dragon race experts, they showed no signs of movement and stood beside them like guards. But Long Xing didn't believe it, but he just snorted and didn't say anything more. Don't forget, you once thought you could compete with the immortal emperor, but what happened? You didn't lose. Who are these 2 people beside you? Are they dragon race experts? Seeing this, Long Yan laughed sarcastically and waved his hands. Long Yan, haven't you been beaten by me for many years? Do you still want to have a problem with Zilong giving the power of the domain to Xiao Ao? Believe it or not, I will give you a good beating later. When Long Ao and Wusu saw Qin Xian's figure, a hint of respect suddenly appeared on their faces. They leaned over and cupped their hands and said. But when he thought about it, he would have to comfort his wife later, and he couldn't help but feel distressed. However, when he returned to his original position, he was glared at by Long Xing, who was standing beside him, and said via voice. I finally felt that long lost familiarity, and it felt good to be back. Several figures stepped out from it, and a terrifying aura shot straight into the sky, causing a commotion in the world. I don't mean that. Is it because your junior is too young? I'm afraid that he will be bullied, so I said this. Who are these people? Isn't this someone seeking death who came to attack our sect? I really don't know who gave them such boldness. I feel it too. Qin Xian frowned when he looked at the strange and powerful man beside them, but then relaxed. High in the sky, Wusu looked at the countless pavilions and disciples below, with a smile on his face. He stopped talking and retreated. With a click, the void in the distance instantly tore open. Qin, who was in Tianxian Palace, seemed to feel something, and his eyes looked into the void in the distance. Qin Xian nodded slightly, not paying attention to this, and asked the 2 of them. But he was right, the person who came was indeed Qin Xian's friend. Long Yan also breathed a sigh of relief. Among the top 10 immortal emperor experts in the dragon race, only 9-clawed golden dragon and azure dragon had the strongest combat power. Before he could finish speaking, Zilong interrupted him. Once they burst out with all their strength, even the sky would be shattered by them, let alone a small fire dragon like him. They were just 2 powerful ancient saints. They were not a big problem to him. He could kill them both easily. When Xiaolong said this, the dragon blushed with embarrassment and scratched his head in embarrassment. Sect Master, Master. Although you lost, you got something very important in the end, and it is this thing that can make you the strong dragon race player you are now. Several young disciples sat in a circle and pointed. Such a scene was naturally noticed by the disciples in the Profound Heaven sect, and they started talking and talking non-stop. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 384. Hearing this, Wusu nodded and replied. Reporting to the Sect Master, these two are the strong ones of the dragon race, sent by the ancestral dragon to protect us. Oh! Qin Xian raised his eyebrows and looked up, wondering what the two of them had experienced in the dragon race. Not only has his own strength improved so much, but he also has two peak ancient saints as guards. What's more, they are not ordinary ancient saints. One is from the nine-clawed golden dragon clan, and the other is from the azure dragon clan. These two races are one of the top races in the dragon race, and each is an invincible strong man in the same realm. The two dragon race experts naturally noticed Qin Xian's eyes. In an instant, the two looked at each other, and a powerful aura spread out in the hall, causing the void to gradually tremble. It's a pity that this is Qin Xian's territory. Here he is a god, a law enforcer, and an invincible existence. The whole body's momentum was shaken, and with a bang, the momentum of the two men was instantly crushed, which made the two of them look at Qin Xian with admiration. Even though they were not as strong as themselves, they were still able to crush themselves, and they also felt the power of the domain. Gradually, he felt a sense of respect for Qin Xian in his heart. However, Wusu did not feel the earth-shattering momentum that the two had just erupted, and only Long Ao barely felt it. Wusu walked out, a jade stone appeared in his hand, handed it to Qin Xian without hesitation, and explained. Sect Master, Senior Xiaolong asked me to give this to you. Seeing this, Qin Xian said nothing, as if he noticed something. With a hook of his finger, the jade floated in front of his eyes. Qin Xian touched it with his finger curiously. The next moment, the entire hall burst out with a bright light, followed by a sound. Buzz. An old man wearing a black robe and holding a cane appeared in the hall. It was Xiaolong. Although it was a phantom, Qin Xian felt a sense of boundless pressure on Xiaolong, as if a huge mountain was pressing on him. However, Qin Xian still used all his strength to carry it down. With a bang, the pressure was like a giant mountain and Qin Xian lifted it up with his bare hands. Seeing this scene, the phantom of Xiaolong in the main hall showed a smile. His crutch shook, and the pressure dissipated. Then Xiaolong said, I, the ancestral dragon, the leader of the dragon race, worship the Lord of the Abyss. Hearing this, Qin Xian's face trembled and his brows furrowed, as if a mysterious thing exploded in his mind. This feeling made Qin Xian feel a little surprised and incredible. Long Ao Xu and others were also a little confused and didn't understand why Xiaolong was called the Lord of Qingxuan Abyss. Is it possible that there is some connection between the two? When Xiaolong saw this scene, he was overjoyed and became more certain about his thoughts. He also knew that the future of dragon race must be realized in his hands. However, Qin Xian didn't know all this, nor did he understand what Xiaolong meant by calling him Lord of the Abyss just now, and asked. I wonder what Senior Xiaolong meant by what he just said. Who is the Lord of the Abyss? Is it possible that I have something to do with him? Xiaolong chuckled and replied with a smile on his face. It's nothing. I just saw that little friend Qin Xian looked like a certain person, and I happened to have seen that person's face before, so I recognized my mistake in a short while. I'm sorry, but please forgive me. Hearing this, a trace of doubt flashed in Qin Xian's eyes, but he remembered the name in his heart, waved his hand and said. It's okay, I just don't know if Senior Xiaolong is here today. What does he have to say? I want to negotiate a condition with little friend Qin Xian. It can also be said to be cooperation. It depends on whether little friend Qin Xian is willing. Condition. Qin Xian frowned and did not reply immediately. Instead, he pondered for a while. After all, Dragon Race is the leader of all races. How could such a powerful race cooperate with a weak force like itself? This made him wonder if it was a conspiracy. Xiaolong saw Qin Xian's expression and knew his thoughts and worries. He coughed slightly and said solemnly, "I have no other intention in cooperating with my friend's forces. I just want you to help me eliminate one force. If little friend encounters something that you can't solve, I can help you appropriately." Hearing this, Qin Xian raised his eyes and looked at him. "I don't know what it is that requires the help of a weak force like me. Senior, can you tell me in detail? This way I can have a better idea." Hearing this, Zilong chuckled and replied, "You just need to help me Dragon Race to eliminate some of the strong men from the two major forces of the Human Temple and the Demon Palace." Qin Xian's face was startled, and he paused again for a while. This matter is not difficult for him. After all, no matter when the Profound Heaven Sect reaches its peak, it will have to deal with these two major forces. Since Xiaolong said it today, his wish has just been fulfilled. What's more, you don't have to pay anything, and you can even get some benefits from it. But now the evil demon palace on the other side of the realm of life and death is worried that no one can solve it. Now that Xiaolong said he could help him if appropriate, he didn't have to be polite. Thinking of this, Qin Xian nodded and said in a deep voice, "Yes, but the senior has to do a favor for the junior. As long as this is completed, then I will naturally help the senior eradicate that force." "You just say so." Qin Xian smiled. "That is to eradicate the evil demon palace." Hearing this, Zilong did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. An evil demon palace with only immortal emperor was just a piece of cake for him Dragon Race. However, killing an immortal emperor would still cause some trouble, let alone a powerful immortal emperor from the human race. Therefore, he could not destroy this force in the name of Dragon Race. Immediately, Zilong condensed a scroll and explained. "This object is the Great Dao Scroll. It has the power to destroy the Emperor, but it must be released at the right time. However, as far as I know, the immortal Emperor in the evil demon palace is still recovering from his injuries, so this object is directed to he can just throw it away." Seeing this scene, Qin Xian's eyes lit up, he took the Great Dao Scroll and whispered, "Thank you very much." He he. Zilong chuckled, and the shadow gradually disappeared. Others also reacted. Qin Xian coughed slightly, looked at a few people, waved and said, "You guys should step back first." After hearing this, several people nodded and retreated. Immediately, a bloodthirsty figure appeared in the hall. Seeing Qin Xian's figure, he cupped his hands with a bloodthirsty expression and said respectfully, "See the sect master." Qin Xian nodded slightly, threw the Great Dao Scroll to Bloodthirsty, and explained, "This object is the Great Dao Scroll, which has the power to destroy the Emperor. You lead the two forces of the Soul Palace and the Shadow Palace to the Evil Demon Palace to destroy this force, especially the immortal Emperor of the Evil Demon Palace." Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 385. Hearing this, his bloodthirsty eyes lit up, and his heart was filled with shock, but he still accepted the scroll respectfully, nodded and said, "As you command." After Bloodthirsty left, Qin Xian suddenly found that his strength had increased and reached the ancient saint realm. "Is it that jade bead?" Qin Xian chuckled. "Not bad." Half an hour later, the nether boat once again descended on the realm of life and death, breaking through the layers of void and arriving at the evil demon palace. Roar! A dragon roar spread across the sky. Bloodthirsty stepped on the dragon, and flew down from the nether boat. Following closely behind were the powerful men from the second hall. Everyone's momentum is monstrous and full of killing intent. The terrifying aura spread out within a 10-mile radius. The powerful men in the evil demon palace had already felt it, and they appeared in mid-air in the blink of an eye. He looked at the people not far away with shocked eyes. At this time, inside the meeting hall, Chi Huang sat there with a gloomy expression. He never expected that a profound heaven sect would be so arrogant and dare to send strong men to invade his territory. Do you really think he is invincible? Chi Huang couldn't help but beat the table hard, looking at everyone with overwhelming pressure, and said angrily, "Pass this order from the master of the palace. From this moment on, all disciples must not escape in any way and fight to the death with profound heaven sect. I want to see how much strength he has to challenge us, and also see how he dares to challenge the majesty of the immortal emperor level force." When the senior officials heard this, they looked startled and nodded. "I will obey the order of the palace master." Immediately, an extremely powerful defensive formation surrounded the evil demon palace. At this time, countless top experts gathered in the sky above the evil demon palace. These are the accumulations that the evil demon palace secretly hoards and possesses. It can be said that Chi Huang is ready to fight to the death this time. But the funny thing is that Chi Huang, as the master of the palace, did not appear here. Instead, the great protector of the evil demon palace led everyone to confront the profound heaven sect. Bloodthirsty foot-trampling dragon. He looked at everyone with a hint of joking in his eyes. Especially after scanning around, he didn't find Chi Huang's figure, and he couldn't help but sneer. "I wonder where the master of your evil demon palace has gone? We are at the moment of life and death, but there is no trace of him. Is it possible that he is afraid? Do you want to use your group of ants to block our offensive, and then he will take this opportunity to escape?" Hearing this, the other disciples of the evil demon palace reacted and hurriedly looked at the audience. It was discovered that there was really no figure of his own palace master in the scene. He looked at the senior officials with doubts in his eyes. Seeing this scene, the senior officials looked a little ugly, gritting their teeth and looking at Bloodthirsty. "If we don't come up with a perfect explanation, we might not be able to resist profound heaven sect's offensive, but our own forces will start fighting first. Normally they don't bother to take care of it, but it's different now. Some smart people have already guessed what it is, but they have no intention of explaining it. Instead, they want to secretly look for opportunities to escape from here. They are all people who drink blood on the tip of a knife, and each has his or her own little thoughts. When they encounter the weak, they will bully them with the same hatred, but it is hard to say when they encounter the strong. Ha ha ha." Seeing the panicked expressions of the senior officials of the evil demon palace, profound heaven sect and others couldn't help but laugh. But at this moment, Chi Huang happened to appear in front of everyone, looked at the people behind him seriously and said, "Don't be influenced by the words of profound heaven section. Just now, the master of this palace just went to see the ancestor. Now the ancestor is recovering from his injuries and cannot take action for the time being, but it does not mean that we have no chance. The ancestor told this palace master that as long as we persist for 7 hours, the people in profound heaven sect will disappear like dust." After hearing this, everyone started talking, and some people also put away their little thoughts and cheered up again. Then he looked at everyone in profound heaven sect with murderous intent. After all, they had seen Wu Yantung's invincible strength before. Although they were confident that their strength was not inferior to Wu Yan, they were afraid that Wu Yan would defeat them in one move. Seeing that none of these people dared to speak and their eyes kept evading, Wu Yan suddenly made a mocking voice. The next moment, 2 figures appeared in front of him. Seeing this, Bloodthirsty's expression was calm. In the shocked eyes of everyone, click. But Wu Yan didn't do this. He curled up the corners of his mouth and raised his palms. In an instant, flames rose out of the sky and instantly gathered into a 10,000-foot-long fire dragon. Afterwards, Wu Yan's figure burned with feverish flames, as if the god of fire had descended, and was extremely terrifying. He looked a little panicked. "I've scared you to this with one punch, so what will happen to you with the next few punches from me?" The defensive formation gradually began to shake due to the punch. Boom. 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 The explosion-like sound also spread to the ears of all the people in the evil demon palace, causing them to take a step back. "I wonder which of you dares to fight me." Wu Yan stepped on the void, crossed his arms, looked at everyone with a pair of cold and murderous eyes, and made a frightening sound. 5 consecutive fist shadows hit the defensive formation. This time the formation finally couldn't bear it, and a crack appeared. The fire dragon exuded powerful dragon power and rushed towards the formation. He gathered his magic power again and waved several giant fists. "I'm afraid that if I use one more punch to defend the formation, it will instantly shatter." As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Yan's fists instantly emitted wild flames, and soon Wu Yan's hands joined together to form a fist shadow. Boom! But at the last moment, several experts at the peak of the ancient saints reacted and joined forces with Qi Huang to resist this move. A shattering sound resounded in everyone's ears, the formation shattered, and the giant dragon rushed towards everyone with extremely fanatical flames. But everyone just stared blankly, their eyes a little blurry, as if they were too shocked to react. Plus there are monsters from hell that look like an ant nest. You are indeed a bunch of cowards. Since you won't fight, I will teach you a lesson myself. In addition, White Tiger and Vermilion Bird also appeared nearby. Their appearance made everyone in the evil demon palace a little scared. Then he blasted towards the defensive formation without hesitation. This time Profound Heaven Sect wants to destroy the evil demon palace. It can be said that they have mobilized 70% of the sect's strength. It was Su Minjiao and Wu Yan. Seeing everyone's expressions, Wu Yan snorted coldly and said disdainfully. Boom. In particular, the killing intent exuded by White Tiger itself is the kind that penetrates deep into the bones of everyone, making people feel terrified at the sight of it. Hearing this, the powerful men in the evil demon palace looked at each other one after another, each of them looking hesitant. Snort. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 386. The hot firelight shone on the faces of several people, which stung so much. Unfortunately, they could not retreat and could only grit their teeth to resist. Then, the strong man with the law of water summoned water and rushed towards the fire dragon, seemingly trying to extinguish it. It's a pity that this is not an ordinary flame, it can't be that simple. It took half of the mana to extinguish the fire dragon. But this was just a move that Wu Yan released casually, and the good show was yet to come. His body was seen landing quickly on the field like a giant hammer, holding a long flaming knife and swinging it towards everyone. No one could react and were cut off in an instant. Then they started to work together to stop Wu Yan. But doing so gives others a chance. The strong men of the second hall controlled the hell monsters and attacked everyone. The hell monster roared and rushed forward desperately. But there are obviously several powerful people in the evil demon palace. Condensing the power of law, destroy the monster in front of you. But these people were noticed by Bloodthirsty early on. With a ferocious laugh, he drove the magic dragon towards them. Boom. 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 5 explosion-like sounds in a row resounded in everyone's ears, like the sound of nature. I saw the demon dragon holding corpses one after another in its mouth. A large amount of blood was constantly scattered outside. Such a scene made people feel sick and unbearable to watch. but the bloodthirsty face remained expressionless, and the body was shaken. The ancient dragon body finally burst out its most powerful power at this moment. In just a few breaths, one after another black dragons were condensed by him and continued to blast towards the people nearby. In addition, Bloodthirsty also directly consumed a lot of mana, condensing the void with his bare hands. In an instant, dark clouds rolled in the sky, thunder continued, and huge gravel fell down one after another, like meteors. Such a shocking sight made some Saint Realm experts marvel in amazement, but then they reacted and began to resist. Boom! 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 The gravel fell to the ground, causing an explosion. The scene suddenly became chaotic, with fighting everywhere. Some people die, some people live. But the one who caught everyone's attention was Su Minjiu in red, because she was so conspicuous and beautiful. Every move represents elegance and magnificence, and a pair of slender snow-white jade legs appear in everyone's eyes from time to time. Feast their eyes. And Vermilion Bird also releases his natal flame, and Nanming Liwo constantly attacks powerful people. White Tiger was also extremely ferocious in this battle. After he turned into a human form, everyone could only see his shadow. No one I fought with him took a single move. As the master of the evil demon palace, Qi Huang was also frustrated in this battle. After all, he was facing Wu Yan, who was invincible in the same realm. In a confrontation at the same level, he was slightly injured after catching a move. There was nothing he could do about it because Wu Yan's flames were so fierce. Although it's not as good as Vermilion Bird's Nanming Liwo, it's not bad either. Lu Wanbing, who was in the cave, was always staring at the battle outside, but his face was a little ugly, and he clenched his fists. Damn it, if I hadn't been seriously injured and haven't fully recovered yet, how could you have been able to act so recklessly in my area? Jiking's move that day had hit him hard, and he still only had Jiking's Great Dao Law in his body. It is this Great Dao Law that prevents him from exerting his strength and cannot activate even a trace of magic power. Once triggered, the Great Dao Law will definitely begin to attack his internal organs. Only by fully recovering from the injury can the Great Dao Law be removed. Speaking of this, Lu Wanbing's eyes showed a hint of hatred again, and he said viciously, "When I recover from this injury, I must teach you a lesson from the human temple, Outside world." The power of law collided one after another in the sky, and the void of space was shattered one after another, completely unable to withstand the fierce battle of the strong men of Saint Realm. I saw Wu Yan finding the right opportunity, grabbing the neck of an ancient sage, crushing her hard, and then stepping on her feet. "Is it okay, Palace Master Qi? Why do you feel that your offensive is getting weaker and weaker? I only felt a slight itch when you hit me. Everyone in the second hall has found the cave and smashed it into pieces." And Bloodthirsty also followed behind with the dragon behind him. The strong men from the second hall, led by the Soul Hall and Shadow Demon, rushed towards the evil demon hall. As a strong man at the pinnacle of the ancient saint, how could I be afraid? I think you are afraid again. The Great Dao Scroll has already appeared in the palm of my hand. There was no hesitation because she was a woman. This couldn't help but make him want to escape. Wu Yan glanced at him lightly, sneered, and didn't care. Wu Yan raised his eyebrows, and his figure immediately disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared behind this person out of thin air. He didn't seem to be worried that the immortal emperor could pose a threat to him. He died like this without even making a sound. One after another, the ancient saints died, which meant that his death was coming. It's a pity that Qi Huang will be disappointed in the end. Lu Wanbing's injury has not fully recovered at all, and he has only recovered 90%. Qi Huang, who was not far away, was unable to resist when he saw this scene. He could only pray that his ancestors' injuries had been fully recovered. "Are you afraid of me? Otherwise, everything is lost." Qi Huang, who was opposite Wu Yan, looked a little scared. Seeing this, the other strong men shuddered and swallowed, their expressions full of fear and panic. However, when he thought that his ancestor was still there, he resisted this thought and held on for a while longer until his ancestor recovered from his injuries. The palm of his hand was condensed with flames, and it hit his chest without hesitation. When the man heard this, he suppressed his fear, quickly calmed down, took a deep breath, and said seriously, "Don't be complacent, so what if you are invincible at the same level? Once the ancestor recovers from his injuries, your death will come. There is still 10% left, but there is no time for him to recover." Wu Yan spoke provocatively. There was a pop, the flames burned, the man's chest exploded instantly, and blood spilled to the ground like a fountain. The miserable corpses left on the ground were left behind. Wu Yan had long guessed that he had this mentality, but he did not take action immediately, but looked at him with a leisurely expression. Looking at Lu Wanbing, who was wearing a white robe, the corner of his bloodthirsty mouth curled up into a sarcastic smile. "I want to see if you can still look so leisurely when the time comes." Instead, he looked at an ancient sage who was afraid of him, curled his lips, and joked. Upon hearing this, Qi Wang's face instantly became angry, and he angrily said, "Oh, is it so?" At this time, the chaotic situation in the field gradually stabilized. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 387. I wonder if Lord Immortal Emperor's injuries have recovered? Do you need me to help you? Hearing this, Lu Wanbing opened a pair of cloudy eyes. In an instant, the terrifying imperial power was scattered on the ground and the starry sky was shattered. This caused everyone to spit out a mouthful of blood and kneel on the ground. If you don't kneel when you meet the emperor, you have already broken the rules. Immediately, he resisted the injury and stood up. His figure instantly appeared in the sky, looking down at everyone. He holds the powerful Great Dao Law in his hand. It was as if the whole world was condensed in his hands at this moment. Lu Wanbing made a cold voice. "Since you have broken the rules, I naturally have the right to clean up your garbage." Seeing this scene, Bloodthirsty's face froze, he smiled nonchalantly and joked. "The immortal emperor must be holding on, right? I see that the Great Dao in your hands seems to be a little broken. Or are you gambling?" Having said this, his bloodthirsty eyes lit up. "Once you release Great Dao, your injuries will worsen, and you may even die. I wonder if this junior is right." Hearing this, Lu Wanbing's face was startled, his eyes narrowed slightly at Bloodthirsty, and he praised in a tone of voice. "Yes, I am indeed trying to hold on. But do you dare to bet with me? You know, you only have one life. Although I will aggravate the injury and even affect the foundation by using this move, I can recover, but you can't. Once you fall victim to this move, you will only die." "Yeah." Bloodthirsty smiled, and the next moment, the Great Dao scroll appeared. Exuding mighty golden light, the Great Dao Sanskrit sound appeared. Buzz. Boom. A divine thunder instantly descended from high in the sky, and the violent power of thunder and lightning resounded throughout the entire world. It seems that he is afraid of this item. When Lu Wanbing saw this scene, his expression couldn't hold it in any longer. This is. In the blink of an eye, his expression showed a hint of panic. Boom. Holding the power of law in his hand, he threw it directly towards the Great Dao scroll, as if he wanted to take this opportunity to destroy it. Unfortunately, it was too late. The Great Dao Law instantly rained down boundless thunder. Dark clouds swept across the sky and rolled down. The torrential rain fell in less than a moment. Boom boom boom. There was a continuous roar of thunder. Such a shocking scene was even noticed by the human temple, which was hundreds of millions of miles away. A man wearing a golden silk robe, a jade-like crown, and a noble face appeared in the void. He put his hands behind his hands and looked at the thunder in the distance. His eyes as bright as the galaxy moved slightly, as if he felt something, and whispered. Does the great Dao scroll possess the power to destroy the Emperor? It seems that the immortal Emperor in the realm of life and death cannot be kept. If you are noticed by an ancestor, even I can't save you, so you should take care of yourself. Then he sighed again. Alas, the death of the immortal Emperor is a danger to our human race and a regret to our race. After finishing speaking, the great Dao scroll exuded the power of the Emperors, like a sharp blade inserted into Lu Wanbing's chest. Ah! Lu Wanbing couldn't break free at all and could only scream and wail. The next moment, the great Dao scroll turned into countless golden lights and turned into golden iron chains one after another, binding his limbs. There was a rumble in the sky, and a huge purple thunder fell out of thin air. The powerful power of thunder and lightning tore Lu Wanbing's internal organs, making him look hideous and in great pain. In the blink of an eye, countless thunderbolts fell again. One after another, it seems that they are trying to torture me. All the powerful men in Profound Heaven Sect looked at the scene in amazement. Especially Wu Yan, the leader of the Wu clan. His expression was extremely horrified, and it was the first time in his life that he had seen the real immortal emperor. But what shocked him was that Profound Heaven Sect actually possessed the great Dao scroll. In the end, Lu Wanbing was unable to withstand the power of heaven's punishment, and finally his soul was destroyed and he died here. The Profound Heaven Taoist temple could not hold on and was destroyed by the Buddhist gate. Because only the ancestor can condense the great Dao scroll with his bare hands. Immediately, no one said anything, and just asked some of the guardian elders of the second hall to rectify the forces in the realm of life and death. They no longer have the strength to resist the Buddhists, so they can only live a life of escape all day long, until now. Everywhere here is filled with dilapidated scenes, and cobwebs and dust are everywhere. Because of this, the Taoist forces throughout the Xianhuang realm began to become weaker, and all Taoist temples became corrupt. The ancestor they thought was invincible in the world was defeated by an ant whose strength was only that of the immortal venerable realm. Otherwise, this matter would be far from simple. The two major powers have been competing for hegemony and fighting each other for hundreds of millions of years. However, during a crisis 1,000 years ago, the power of Buddhist gate suddenly became stronger and sent a dozen high-level ancient saints to start strangulating the Profound Heaven Taoist temple. Some Taoist temples were even destroyed, and temples and Buddha statues were built one after another. With such a scene, the Taoists had nothing to do. Fortunately, he gritted his teeth and persevered, and as a blessing in disguise, he realized a little bit of the power of the great Dao. But there is nothing that can be done. Who makes these four major forces one? Destroying the four major forces can be regarded as a wake-up call for other forces. He had just withstood the pressure of the great Dao scroll. At the same time, inside a ruined Taoist temple in Xianhuang domain. How ridiculous! Especially for some large resource holders, it would be unreasonable not to give them a severe cut. The great Dao scroll also disappeared in a burst of light. After all, the mission only requires annexing half of the forces. At this time, Qi Huang, the master of the evil demon palace, and all the senior officials had been controlled by the powerful men of Profound Heaven Sect. Xianhuang realm has countless forces, but these two are the only ones with the right to speak. Fortunately, this battle did not attract the attention of the territory lord. They are Profound Heaven Taoist Temple and Supreme Buddhist Gate. This is an item even more terrifying than the powerful immortal emperor. Seeing this scene, the bloodthirsty face on the demon dragon's back couldn't help but turn pale. After all, his strength was too low. Also better at breaking through to the immortal emperor. However, among them, there are still two old Taoist priests sitting here, with eyes full of reluctance for this place. Everyone looked at the scene with dull eyes and dull faces. Since you have the great Dao scroll, it means that that force has an ancestor strongman sitting in charge. The rest of the forces in the second hall didn't care either. Don't underestimate the power of the Great Dao. Understanding the Great Dao earlier means that you can come into contact with the power of the Great Dao Law earlier. However, there seems to be some deviation from the completion of the mission. Now Profound Heaven Sect controls at least 70% of the realm of life and death. And the elimination of the evil demon palace finally came to an end. This is why the mysterious man just said that Lu Wanbing was noticed by a powerful ancestor. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 388. An old Taoist on the left looked at the dilapidated scene in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. Alas, why do you think my Taoist family has fallen to this point? The current Qianhuang realm can be said to be dominated by Buddhist gate. We and other Taoists can only survive. Even some fellow Daoists have begun to be ordained as monks. It's really sad, deplorable, and hateful. The Taoist priest on the side smiled after hearing this, but his smile was full of bitterness and unwillingness. The two of them have reached the level of the golden immortal realm. With such strength, they can actually go to Zhou Pavilion and take the ferry boat to other realms. There is absolutely no need to fight to the end in the Qianhuang realm. It's a pity that the feudal ideology here is too deep-rooted. They have lived here all their lives, how could they go to other places? They are unwilling to take revenge. The two of them didn't say anything more, looked at this place reluctantly, and walked out. The autumn wind was howling outside, withered leaves falling to the ground, and a sad scene greeted the two of them, which made people feel a little sad. But the two of them just glanced at each other, shook their heads and disappeared. This time the two of them were just out to investigate the news. Although the Taoists were defeated, they were still very united. Now living in France, one of the 1,000 states. It was also the place where Taoism finally took control. But at this time, the void was torn apart. There was a click. 3 figures appeared here, looking around. Tisk, 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 I didn't expect that the Taoists would be in such a state of decline. It's really sad. Among the 3 people, a man wearing a black robe with an evil appearance couldn't help but make a teasing sound. The 2 people beside him did not speak when they heard this. I saw one of the kind old men looking at the Taoist temple in front of me, thinking for a moment, and then walked in. What comes into view is a dilapidated scene. Seeing this scene, the old man shook his head and walked out. The 3 of them were Su Zi, Mo Chen, and the second protector of the Soul Palace, Han Er. Let's go, there's nothing to see here. Let's go to Fazhu first and have a look. I heard that it is the only place that Taoism can control now. Kyoshi looked at the 2 of them and said. After hearing this, the 2 nodded and left here. In the blink of an eye, we arrived in Fazhu. I saw people wearing Taoist robes everywhere in the sky, Taoist disciples flying with swords. From time to time, an old man with an immortal spirit appears. However, the 3 people appearing here out of thin air naturally attracted some people's attention. Because the 3 people's robes were all different colors, it was Kyoshi's outfit that impressed them a bit. The other 2 are gone, but they can't be said to be annoying. Anyway, at least they were not from Buddhist gate, so they relaxed their vigilance. The next moment, an energetic old man in white robes came to the 3 of them. The old man cupped his hands towards Suzu, a smile appeared on his wrinkled face, and asked. I wonder which force fellow Daoist belongs to? Why have I never seen your appearance before? Also, who are the 2 people next to fellow Daoist? They don't seem to be from the Qianhuang realm. After hearing this, Suzu returned the favor with a hand. He was not unhappy because of the old man's blunt question. Instead, he patiently explained. That's it, fellow Daoist. I'm from the Qianhuang realm. I've never met you before, but there are some reasons. Oh. The old man raised his eyebrows. I wonder if fellow Daoist can elaborate. Kyoshi glanced at him, his expression was hesitant to speak, and there was a trace of sadness on his face, as if he didn't want to mention what happened back then. Such a scene made the old man believe it. If you don't want to mention it, fellow deist, you don't have to say it. After all, everyone has something to hide. Suzu waved his hand and replied. Since I have returned to Taoism, I naturally have to tell everything so that you can be convinced. Anyway, I've kept this matter in my heart for a long time. It feels better to say less today. Kyoshi took a breath and began to explain what happened back then. The law of time. These 4 words appeared in Han Er's mind. But I always remember this hatred. You can take revenge right away, and we will always take back what belongs to us from those old bald asses at Buddhist Gate. There are several statues standing around the main hall. Even if the powerful immortal emperor wants to break through the defensive formation, it will take some time, which is why Buddhist Gate does not completely eliminate Taoism. Moreover, the falling peach blossom seemed to be stilled, staying in mid-air. He walked over, patted Kunzi on the shoulder, nodded solemnly and said. The man entered the Taoist temple under the leadership of the old man. Sol Er's eyes kept scanning the surroundings, and he discovered 7 ancient Saint Realm peak experts with just one inspection. He exuded an extraordinary aura. And there are traces of Tao marks flashing around the body. And saw a majestic hall emitting golden light. The most difficult thing to cultivate in the world is the law of time. Phew. But once you succeed in cultivation and become an immortal emperor, it means that you have the ability to control the flow of time. Today I achieved enlightenment and returned to Taoism just to take revenge on these old bald donkeys at Buddhist Gate. Of course, these are all made up by Kyoshi. And it is protected by a powerful defensive formation. But these were not enough to surprise him. What really shocked him was a Taoist priest sitting under a peach tree. Kyoshi said indignantly, exuding a mighty aura, and his eyes revealed a hint of murderous intent. Xianji brought the 3 of them to a magnificent Taoist temple located between 2 mountains. In addition, there is the nurturing spirit with closed eyes, guarded by an old Taoist priest sitting cross-legged. It looks like you are sitting cross-legged, but you are actually comprehending the Tao. This is Kyoshi's deliberate burst of strength in order to be more like him. After looking at the 3 of them carefully, he closed it again. Able to transcend the long river of time and rescue the person you most want to see from the past years. When Buddhist Gate was encircling and suppressing my Taoism, my father, as a powerful human sage, naturally set an example and fought with all his life against the 3 powerful sages of Buddhist Gate. The old man opposite was indeed frightened by the scene, and his eyes showed a trace of sympathy for Kyoshi. With hatred, I started 100 years of fighting. Under the leadership of a strong man, I came to other realms and started my adventure there, and the 2 people beside me were the ones I was fighting. The friends I made. Then he went to great lengths to hide me in the rudder of a ship, so I survived alone, but my father died in that battle. When he noticed the figures of several people, he opened his eyes a little. It's a pity that I couldn't defeat 4 hands with 2 fists. I was attacked by a man from Buddhist Gate and cut off 1 arm. I was seriously injured. My father returned home and took me out. We are all suffering from the same problem. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 389. Bringing the dead back to life is just a piece of cake. It seems good, but practicing the law of time also comes at a cost. That is, once you practice this law, your life will pass quickly. Only when you practice the law to perfection will it stop the flow of life. And I will return it to you with 100 times the power of my life. It is precisely because of this that some people dare not practice. Although the things obtained are very good, it does not mean that everyone can succeed. Only the genius who is 1 in 10 can barely succeed. It was precisely because of this that Sol felt shocked. It seems that I have underestimated this Taoist. It is really a crouching tiger, hidden dragon. The task assigned to me by the palace master may be a bit difficult to handle. Hun murmured, walking, and finally arriving at the main hall. In the main hall, there was an old man sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. A trace of terrifying aura flashed across his body. This feeling can't help but double the pressure on the three of them. It was as if there was a giant peak in the sky pressing down on the three of them. Immortal Emperor. These two words appeared out of thin air in the minds of the three of them. That's right, this old man is the Immortal Emperor. However, the realm is not stable. It seems that it has just broken through the Immortal Emperor not long ago, and it will take several months to stabilize. But he can barely release the great Dao law. I saw the old man leaning down and bowing respectfully. Master, there is a fellow Daoist who claims to be a descendant of the powerful Saint Realm and comes to recognize him. The old man known as the Temple Master stopped practicing and opened his eyes. In an instant, an extremely surging air pressure emerged in the hall. Seeing this scene, the three of them looked startled and felt troubled. They knew that this guy was testing them, but the three of them had extraordinary talents, and they could withstand the pressure. And he fought back. This scene made the old man a little surprised, but he still endured it, looked at Kyoshi and asked calmly. I wonder what the name of this fellow Daoist is. Hearing this, Suzu cupped his hands and replied with a smile on his face. My name is Kyoshi. Oh? Kyoshi. He couldn't help but nodded and praised. The name is quite good. The temple master is so impressed. Kyoshi said neither humble nor arrogantly. Such an appearance made the old man a little interested. I see that your strength seems to be around Immortal Venerable, and you are not very old. It seems that you are a highly talented person. Okay, how about you teach the little Taoist priests who have just entered school? Hearing this, Kyoshi had no objection and nodded. Ken. After all, we have to figure out some things about Buddhism and Taoism for the time being, and we have to take our time to annex the Xianhuang realm, and we can't rush it. But he thought of something again and looked at the two people beside him. Master, why don't these two friends of mine come with me? After all, I already know a lot about them. Besides, their talents are not bad. I believe they will be of great help when dealing with Buddhist Gate. Seeing this, the old man glanced at him and closed his eyes. Ken. Seeing that the old man agreed, Kyoshi didn't say anything more and walked out of here with another old man chatting and laughing. After a few people left, a black shadow appeared in the hall out of thin air and knelt in front of the old man. Owner. The old man opened his eyes, and there was a hint of coldness in his eyes, which was not at all like the good-looking look just now. Keep an eye on them. The black shadow nodded and said. As you command. The figure disappeared into the main hall, as if it had never appeared before, which was enough to show that this person had never believed Kyoshi at all. After the black shadow disappeared, the old man sat up, looked outside with his eyes, his face was extremely cold, and he said coldly. I want to see who dares to target my Taoist family, and what fun can you do? Immediately he checked his body again and clenched his fists involuntarily. He had just entered the Immortal Emperor and his realm was unstable. Otherwise he really wanted to see who was behind the scenes. But what he didn't know was that a dark figure was hiding in the darkness of the hall, watching this scene coldly. After knowing the color he wanted, the black shadow disappeared again. Immediately, a dark shadow appeared in a pavilion. This makes the task much simpler. He is also a protector of the Soul Palace. And he can also take this opportunity to gain credit and spread his reputation, making Taoists believe in him more. So in the end, this matter still has to be left to the sect leader to decide. Qin Xian sat on the throne. Suza looked at the two of them indifferently and said, "What if we are noticed by the powerful immortal emperor during the process of exterminating our family? Kyoshi and 3 others are here. I really didn't expect that there is a powerful immortal emperor in Taoism. In my opinion, this matter should be reported to the sect master." Seeing this, the two nodded and said nothing more. "However, we can send people from the second palace to sneak into the Buddhist gate to see if there is a strong immortal emperor in the Buddhist gate." Seeing the hesitation on their faces, Han-er suddenly became anxious, thinking that they were cherishing the lives of these people. The two are the soul demon and the shadow demon. This. Don't hesitate. The so-called big things are not limited to trivial matters. They are just some Buddhist gate bald donkeys. Their lives are dispensable. Don't forget whose orders we are following this time. Seeing this, Yeyu told the 3 people what had just happened. When Mo Chen heard this, he didn't refute anything, but Han-er spoke up at this time. After half a stick of incense, the 3 of them looked at each other, and Suza said. Hearing this, Han-er nodded, raised his eyes to look at her, his eyes were full of coldness, and asked. "No, in my opinion, there is no need to report such a trivial matter to the master. It is just an immortal emperor who is in a stable state. The threat to us is not very big. My subordinate Yeyu is here to see the second protector." Hearing this, Han-er lowered his eyes. He really didn't consider this. What Sol-er said is indeed the only way now. And below, there are 2 Daoist figures standing there with respectful expressions. As soon as these words came out, the 2 of them looked startled and somewhat hesitant. It seems that this mission is a bit difficult. It's not that we care about the lives of these people, but the only uncertain factor now is whether there is a powerful immortal emperor at Buddhist Gate. Before Han-er could finish speaking, Mo Chen interrupted him. The black shadow emerged from the ground, revealing her cold face. Although she was a woman, her own strength had reached the level of immortal sovereign. Besides, his mortal enemy is the Buddhists now. We won't do anything to him, otherwise he will always be hurt. Let the sect leader decide this matter. I think we should mobilize all the powerful men from the second palace to come to the Xianhuang realm and launch a genocidal stranglehold on the Buddhist gate. What's more, they Profound Heaven Sect, in the magnificent Tianqian Palace. What did you hear? Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 390. The 2 of them just told him what Kyoshi and the others encountered in the Xianhuang realm. Qin Xian thought for a long time and knew that he had made a mistake. I never expected that Taoism would produce a powerful immortal emperor. The ancient sage and the immortal emperor are not on the same level. One can only control the law, and the other directly controls the great Dao. As soon as he said it, the color of heaven and earth changed. No one has ever been able to fight the immortal emperor as an ancient saint. Thinking of this, Qin Xian's face gradually darkened. If he personally dealt with the immortal emperor, it would be very easy indeed. But Qin Xian didn't want to do this. Instead, he wanted to take back the Taoist immortal emperor under his control. In that case, I will give you a gift from the Taoists, and I will also take this opportunity to push Suzy up. Speaking of this, Qin Xian's eyes revealed a hint of chill. He looked at the 2 of them and ordered. Pass this order to the 7 peak masters to go to the Xianhuang realm to attack the Buddhist gate, and you 2 temples will just cooperate. When they heard this, their eyes lit up and they nodded. It seemed that he had guessed what Qin Xian was going to do. But this is also in line with their appetite. Immediately, the 2 figures disappeared into the hall. Qin Xian, who was sitting on the throne, put his hands on the armrests, looked into the distance with his eyes, and murmured. Let you Buddhist gate complete my plan. However, thinking that he might encounter some trouble in the Xianhuang realm this time, Qin Xian sent 4 more divine beasts to follow him. After all, he was not sure whether there was a powerful immortal emperor sitting in Buddhist gate. The four major mythical beasts can also be considered as a backup, because they have a special move when combined. Although it can't defeat the immortal emperor, it can at least limit the offensive of an immortal emperor. Xianhuang Domain, in a temple filled with Buddha light. I saw that this place was covered with countless Buddha statues. Below, there are dozens of monks wearing monk robes. They all have fat heads and big ears, and their eyes are full of spring. It's just that their faces are more pious at this time. And at the head of them, there was an old man wearing a golden beaded cassock with a charitable face standing here. The old man's eyes were bright, but there was a hint of sadness, like a living bodhisattva. This person is the current leader of Buddhist Gate. Huiming. His own strength has reached the peak of the ancient saint realm. Immediately, I saw him leading many monks behind him to worship the Buddha statue in front of him. It took me half a moment to bow and burn the incense before I could stop. Then Huiming turned to look at everyone and said softly, "The worship is over, the monks retreat." Hearing this, everyone put their hands together, closed their fingers, and said, "Amitabha, please obey the Buddha's orders." Then he retreated. Buddhist Gate performs a worship service every day. The reason is to ask Buddha to bless them. Not long after everyone retreated, a huge golden Buddha suddenly emitted black light, and a black shadow emerged from it and came to Huiming. Seeing this scene, Huiming's expression remained unchanged and he looked at it calmly. "Old bald donkey, I, demon race, have helped you so many times. Isn't it inappropriate that you just used that little thing to honor us recently?" The black shadow revealed his face. It was a man with a cold appearance and a noble aura. And he is also the younger brother of Nether, one of the three saint children of the demon race. It's called Ghost. His own strength has reached the peak of the human saint realm, and he is only one step away from breaking through to the ancient saint. The reason why he came here was on orders from the demon ancestor. Thousands of years ago, the reason why Buddhist Gate suddenly became stronger was naturally due to the demon race. But because of this, they also have to pay some price. That means escorting hundreds of millions of mortals to the demon cave a month. Although mortals have little strength, their lives are precious. As long as they are gathered together and the soul-absorbing method is used, their souls are made into soul-calling banners. You can recruit creatures from the past to help you. In addition to these, you can also refine the blood-soul technique to transfer the lives of these people to a person. Absorbing these can not only improve one's qualifications and talents, but can even give birth to a physical constitution. Donor you, there is nothing this poor monk can do. After all, powerful human beings have begun to notice the news of a large number of mortals disappearing. If I go to collect mortals regardless of the consequences again, I might attract strong human beings to attack me. Huiming's face suddenly showed a trace of embarrassment. However, the ghost didn't care about this. They were just mortals, not ants enough for him, and snorted coldly. "I don't care about this. If the powerful human race dares to come and watch, don't be afraid. They can't represent the human race temple anyway. You transport hundreds of millions of mortals to the demon cave as soon as possible. My lord is already angry, and the consequences will be serious. Now he just wants to stabilize his cultivation and eradicate Taoism. Okay, I'll try my best." Hearing this, everyone in the room immediately opened their eyes. "Let's get you ahead of that old bald ass." Hearing this, Huiming looked a little hesitant. Immortal Emperor is no longer rare for him. Huiming nodded and said nothing. However, he was asked to transport 100 million mortals, which made him very distressed, and he even wanted to kill the ghosts in his heart. But at this moment, there was a knock on the door from outside. Kyoshi replied calmly. "Chang Immortal, Temple Master, they are calling you. This has nothing to do with me. It's something that the Taoist high-level officials are discussing." "Okay, I'll be here soon. Besides, don't you want to break through the immortal emperor? As long as you are transporting a billion mortals, I, demon race, will give you a way to break through the immortal emperor. But he couldn't refuse, which made him feel helpless. In front of them stood three deist figures. Hearing this, everyone said nothing and walked aside, closing their eyes, nurturing spirit. Everyone looked at him and said nothing. After glancing at Ghost, he could only nod his head. A few days later. When are the Taoists going to take action? It's too late. It's already been 7 days. Seeing this scene, Ghost immediately showed a happy smile, patted his shoulder and said. Song Shizu sat aside and couldn't help complaining. After hearing what he wanted, the figure's eyes lit up, and the figure disappeared instantly. Just wait patiently for a while, there's no rush for this moment anyway. Faz Hu, within a pavilion. The 7 peak masters of the profound heaven sect, the master of the second palace and Su Minjiu appeared here. However, his eyes fell on Kyoshi invariably. However, his identity made Huiming a little afraid. This. Dong dong dong. Seeing this scene, Kyoshi couldn't help but sigh and said helplessly. Don't worry, just concentrate on completing the tasks assigned to you by Demon Race. But what the two of them didn't know was that a deist figure was on the dark side, watching them coldly. It was Kyoshi and the other 3.